Hey everyone, and welcome to another Salesforce Ben collaboration webinar with Prodly. I think this is our third webinar we've done together, and they've all been a great success, if I don't say so myself. So yeah, looking forward to this one. Hope everyone is well. We're going to kick off just before we get the webinar started. I can see people are still coming in. We had quite a lot of people signing up today, but we're going to kick off with a poll, which is how familiar are you with the DevOps Center? We've got another poll after this as well, and this will just help us, help myself and David guide the conversation a bit. It's been a pretty hot topic for, I don't know, a couple of years now, maybe longer. You might know better than me, David, but a long time.
Yeah.
And obviously things are hotting up a bit now that it's in open beta. So yeah, very interested to hear how familiar you are with Salesforce DevOps Center. And we can have a look at the results in just a minute as well.
It's something Salesforce has been actively promoting. It's certainly a problem we're solving, making those teams more productive. So it's a good test for us to get a sense of, how mature the audience is here and give us a better sense of where we need to focus our content and our technology.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it was maybe it was even longer than that when Salesforce DX was first announced, actually. Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, there we go.
So lots of people have heard of it, using it.
Yeah,
so
it's just a buzzword at the moment then that people have heard of, but haven't looked into it yet. Well, hopefully after this webinar, you'll have a much better idea about what it is, how to use it. So yeah, next poll. If you have used it, which is actually quite a small percentage of the audience, but we'd love to know, yeah, how did you find it? And I think we've got everyone who's attending is almost in. So welcome to everyone that's just joining us. We're just doing a couple of polls. First poll was, have you heard of the DevOps Center? And the majority of people have heard of it, but not used it. I think 84%, which, yeah, I wasn't expecting to see that high actually, but I mean, it is only an open beta. So, that would mean most people probably haven't tried it.
Well, it's the right audience here. People haven't tried it yet and want to learn about it.
Yeah, no, very true. Great to hear that it is working for a few people that have used it though, so very good to hear. Cool, so we're going to kick off now. Thank you everyone for being here today. Very excited for this topic to talk about the DevOps Center, a complete guide and tutorial. So after this session, you will definitely be an expert in everything DevOps Center and hopefully can take it back to your organization and start using it. So we'll just cover a few things before we dive in. So yeah, just cover housekeeping. So as this is a webinar, everyone's muted. We're going to have a Q&A at the end. So if you've got any questions, I can see one's already been put in, but you can ask questions throughout the webinar and we'll get around to them at the end. So please ask questions. And there will be a recording as well. So if you want to email this to any of your colleagues, or if you need to drop off a bit early or something like that, then you can finish it off later. And just to introduce myself, so my name is Salesforce Ben. I'm founder and editor at salesforceben.com, which is the largest Salesforce news site in the world. Last month we got over 400,000 users on the site, which was very, very cool to see. And I've got 10 years experience in the ecosystem, working across quite a few different roles. I'm very pleased to be here with David.
Hey, good morning, good evening to everybody. My name is David. I'm a VP of product at Prodly, and I've also worked in the Salesforce ecosystem about 10 years at various ISVs as a product manager at Salesforce for both Salesforce CPQ and Service Einstein chatbots. So definitely worked a lot with customers, understanding their pain around developing and maintaining their process in Salesforce. So excited to be chatting with you today, Ben.
You too, David. So let's kick off. So the majority of people in this call have heard about Salesforce DevOps Center, and it's exciting new development that Salesforce have talked about for quite a few years, but we're only just started a few months ago to actually get the open beta. So David, could you please tell us what is the Salesforce DevOps Center?
Yeah, Salesforce DevOps Center is a Salesforce tool, so provided by Salesforce to help you and your teams develop on Salesforce more effectively. It brings some of the best practices that have been available in traditional software development for things like source control-based development and release management, but it's doing it in a way that is just point-and-click administration. So it's very accessible for you and your team. And we think this is the future of change at Salesforce. It's going to supplant what you guys know as change sets and making your teams more efficient and more productive.
Great. Cheers, David. And so DevOps was talked about a lot at Dreamforce. You know, it kind of got lost in maybe some of the big announcements like Genie and things like that. You know, but it was a major feature in, I think it was in the admin keynote and the developer keynote. So what were the kind of main announcements from Dreamforce about the DevOps Center?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is you know, we were all hoping that it was going to go GA, but it did not. So it's still in a beta, which means everybody still has access to this tool. You can go and try it out today, and we certainly encourage you to do so. But you know, we're hoping that goes GA later this year. I think the other thing, and I was just standing at the booth and listening to some of the different sessions around this DevOps Center and the messaging, is this is really a tool focused for teams that are using Salesforce declaratively. So, you know, they're not doing a ton of, you know, custom apps and code. They're managing a lot more of those metadata and data changes. And this tool is really amazing for those teams who are using that declarative and or have hybrid teams. So if you are on a team that is working with some developers, this is a really good tool for you because it allows you to both have that collaboration with the admin and those developer personas.
Cool, great. And so, you know, DevOps Center, as you've said, is meant to be a really nice and easy clicks not code way to manage the releases. But what kind of setup and process is needed to get things up and running?
Yeah, so I mean, this is why we're all here today. We want to learn about, you know, how do we set up DevOps Center? And the good news is you don't have to take any notes. We've created a 50-page screen by screen, click by click troubleshooting guide for you to get up and running with DevOps Center. But just to kind of give you an idea of what it's going to take is first you're going to have to find like what is your release path. So for many of us, this is, you know, going from a sandbox dev environment to a QA environment, like a staging area, and then going to production. Depending on your team size or the number of teams in your organization, you guys may decide based on number of projects or sizes of teams that you need, you know, multiple release paths, or that it may be very simple or much longer. So the second thing you're going to need to be able to do is to prepare your development environments. What that means is just making sure that they're spun up. You know, you've created the number of sandboxes you need, you've refreshed your sandboxes, and they're ready for development. And then the third step is you're going to be installing DevOps Center into your production environment. Very easy to do within the Salesforce setup UI. And then you're going to start your first project, and that's going to involve, you know, defining, you know, what's in scope for this project and a bunch of other items around defining what the work is, which we'll go into in a minute. And then you'll go ahead and start your work, and you'll go through this new process of promoting work items and approving and just getting that visibility and automation into your release process. So we're really excited to share this guide with you. It will be sent after the recording and also available on the Salesforce Ben website.
Nice, very cool. Yeah, a lot of new terms I think some people have to get used to, such as, you know, release path and scratch orgs and things like that. So I think that's all included in your guide, right? So that'll be sent out. Nice, cool. So DevOps Center, you know, is an upgrade on change sets, but there's a lot of other aspects that we've talked about around it, such as modern release best practices. So how will this change actually work in practice?
Yeah, this is going to be a big shift for us. It's a really new sort of a way of thinking about changing things in Salesforce. I mean, I remember back in the day, we'd just go in, we'd create a list of all the things we wanted to change, and then we'd go into change sets and kind of select them all. You know, kind of the old way of doing it, but this shift is to going from selecting and changing individual components to really defining work and associating changes with work, and sort of this concept of unit of work, and really defining, what is this component of work supposed to do, and then we define, what are all those changes associated to it. So I know we're going to talk a lot about this, so let's show you a bit.
Yeah, so how does it actually work then? What do you mean by promoting work?
So if you've ever, we've all used change sets, right? So we create these components, we select all the components and then migrate the change set. Well, in DevOps Center, you create these records called work items. And the work item is sort of the definition of what the work is. And then what DevOps Center does is it automatically detects what changes you're making in that dev environment, and you can associate them to that work item. And then when you're going through this release process, as we talked about, going from like dev to a QA org or QA org to production, you're now promoting those work items, and you're approving those work items. And the benefit this provides is it allows you to see sort of, when is work promoted, who's promoting it, and maybe who's responsible for signing off on it. So definitely a lot easier to see who's doing the work, what is the work, and seeing that work throughout the development process.
Yeah. Very cool.
So I mean, Ben, you've been a consultant on many projects, and you're not talking to them about flows. Instead, you're talking about this automation process, right?
Yeah, no, I was kind of thinking about the evolution of my career, and when you're very junior, you kind of think about that stuff, the solutions you're provisioning. But when you kind of get more experience, and then you're talking about business processes and user stories and these kind of things, I think it just shows your maturity as a Salesforce professional, and you're dealing with business impact and not just implementing random solutions. And I kind of see DevOps Center as an evolution of that, exactly as you shared. Change sets is just a bunch of random things you're deciding to deploy at any one time. While DevOps Center and work items are much more based around user stories and the impact they're going to have. So I think it's definitely moving in the right direction.
So we talked about.
Sorry, no, you go, David.
No, I was just going to segue. I know we've been talking a lot about this concept of automation, but it looks like using this tool will automatically be able to detect those changes as we go through this work process that we were talking about.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think it alleviates some of the visibility issues with deploying in a team and what is actually in that pipeline. So what are some of the other benefits that we can get with the DevOps Center?
So, we were talking about consulting backgrounds and working through this process. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are used to working through this process in a spreadsheet, and it's come Saturday or Sunday, and they're going through the release, and they're like, oh my goodness, do I have all the things that were developed, and did they all make it successfully into production? Like, we've all been in that situation at some point or another in our careers, and we're really trying to get away from those moments where it's like, oh my goodness, something's not working, or did I miss something? And really, DevOps Center, what it's doing is because it's associating and detecting the changes with those work items, like, you can promote with confidence. And it's so much less time consuming because I don't have to go through like the million of components that is offered in my pick list and find everything. It automatically detects it. It's such a big time saver. So, no more building change sets, no more worrying about did everything make it in production. And then finally, we actually have an approval process now. So as we sign off on work items and sort of move them through this process, we have more auditability and visibility into, as I said earlier, kind of who's making the changes and why those changes are being made. So a lot of benefits.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can even remember using Google Chrome extensions to help with the change set interface because it wasn't that great.
Yeah. So a lot of benefits there.
Yeah, great. So we're talking about the term work a lot, but what does this exactly mean that work items aren't work management?
Yeah, so I'm a product manager, so I live and breathe inside of work management, which is the whole process of figuring out, what is it that we're developing, what's the priority, and many of these listeners on our call, you guys have either dealt with stakeholders or you're trying to determine what gets built, and making those tough trade-offs of like, do we develop this now or later? And that's really the difference between work management and work items is, work management is about, the process of prioritizing and determining what the work is, and work items are really just that unit of work that gets pushed through this release process.
Yeah, very cool. And then, so I guess to kind of further emphasize this, we've got another poll, which is going to be quite interesting to see. So have you ever had things not work when they get to QA or quality assurance? So I think a lot of us can relate to this if we have quality assurance at all, because I know I haven't in quite a lot of projects I haven't had quality assurance. But it can also get a bit more awkward. Sorry, David, go ahead.
Going back to that weekend story about merging something into the next level environment, I have like this component that I have no idea why it was developed. I might be on my Slack channel asking like who did this, right? Or something's not migrating, and it seems like a lot of people on this call have had that experience. So the question then becomes, what do we do at this point? Do we go to our Slack channels? Do we we halt the release process was what generally happens. And so the idea is combining work management and the definition of the work with the deployment process is key, because it now will provide us that visibility.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, it was a bit of a leading question with that poll question, but it's a nice point to illustrate that these things, it's not uncommon for these things to happen. So yeah, definitely this DevOps Center should improve things. So next, so most companies track work to be done in some fashion, whether it's in Jira or another type of management system. But why are we integrating these two processes together? What benefits do we have from that?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest benefit is just visibility into why the work is developed and what's the priority of the work and where is the work. So it's about that stakeholder visibility, but it's also about the quality of the release. So to use a few stories, I've been in that situation where I've had to make a trade-off as to, what one item getting into a release or not, and it's really hard to communicate that sometimes with my boss. And I've talked to a lot of admins who are like, my boss doesn't know what I do. They don't really understand the volume of work that I'm putting out into Salesforce and all these changes I'm making. And what work management does is it puts the unit of work into a measure that can be communicated with the business. That's a lot, but it's the English version of what gets developed. And now that we're linking that together with this release management, with this DevOps tool in Salesforce, it's combining these things together in a way that's providing a lot of value. So it'll, as I mentioned earlier, because now we're linking together the definition of the work and the release process. We now know as we're going through the release, why is work getting developed? So if things aren't going as planned, we know who to talk to and how it should be behaving. After the fact, after you've done your release, you now have a documentation in Salesforce or in your work management tool of all the things that were developed and why. So, later on you come back and you say, I don't really remember why this component was developed. Well, guess what? Now it's linked to a release, and that release is linked to a work item, and you know exactly why a component was changed or developed. Very, very valuable if you're working with system integrators or a larger Salesforce team, because now you have that documentation paper trail between different stakeholders who may not always be talking with each other. And then I guess my last point is this just provides a lot more data for you to justify your teams, your spend and different headcount. If you're working on a lot of different projects, you have now a list of metrics that are all reportable through Salesforce that aren't, just showing a spreadsheet of like, hey, I did a lot of stuff. Now you actually have like units of work you can communicate.
Yeah, definitely. It was all a bit alien for me when I first kind of saw this. I was like, whoa, how does this all work? Change sets are so simple to some degree, but then it kind of clicks and it's just like, okay, this makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's a lot of new stuff. I know some teams are probably doing this already, and so they're probably thinking, like, how do I just use my existing work management process with DevOps Center? And then there's probably some other teams who are thinking, I don't really use a work management tool today. I use Trello or I use a spreadsheet. So what's my next step? So we're going to provide a little bit more information on that right now.
Yeah, definitely. So when we're talking about user stories, so this is referred to as story-driven development. So why is this important with the DevOps Center?
I think the first thing is that DevOps Center itself doesn't provide that richness all on its own of that work definition. It has a text field so that you can kind of fill out some of that information, but as we were talking about before, a lot of that work management process comes upstream to DevOps Center. So using Prodly, we have a tool that integrates Jira or Agile Accelerator into the DevOps Center so that you can go through this process as we were talking about before, as just describing things like, what is the topic, what is the user story and the acceptance criteria, what's the status, who is this assigned to, and what our tool does is it connects together those work management practices with DevOps Center seamlessly, so you don't have to swivel chair, you don't have to go to your work management system and then go back into DevOps Center and do your release. And this will, just as I said, give you that context as to what you're building things and what you're releasing.
Great, very cool. So why would you want to integrate stories into release management?
I mean, we touched on this a little bit, but I think it gets to that moment on the weekend where you're just like, why was this story developed? What is this component used for? And I would imagine coming back here and just like looking at the requirements and seeing who that person was, who was the QA engineer, who was the admin who developed this. It's hugely valuable because now I'm chatting with them through Chatter or Slack. I know who to talk to. I know really how important this item is, and then ultimately I can always link this to my boss say, is this really important that we make this in? So it's all about that visibility. It's about the quality of the release, and then ultimately we have the documentation here. So a year from now, 2 years from now, we know exactly why something was developed.
Yeah, great. And so when it comes to the moment of truth, you're just about to deploy into production. How does having this specific integration help with deployment?
Yeah, I mean, as we're looking at right here, this is a Prodly deployment process here where we're moving some complex configuration data from production to QA. We're doing some seeding here, and as we see, we have the Jira ticket just associated to this process, and so everything's staying in sync. Whether I'm in Salesforce or in Jira, we're linking those things together, and I don't have to hunt around for as I said before, like why this was integrated. It just eliminates those multiple steps of manually rekeying this information across systems, or just doing extra sleuthing and sort of figuring out what's going on. So definitely it creates that extra automation because I think we'll talk about in a second. It's like I don't think people feel like they have a lot of time to be implementing more process as it comes to the release itself.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it's quite a nice quote from someone at Conga here, my old company. At first, it seems like a lot more work to do, but now I don't think anyone on my team would want to go back to the way they were working before. So to people on this call that may be thinking, like this person from Conga with a lot more work to do, what would you say to them?
Yeah, this is a tough one because it does seem like a lot of work. I mean, we go to I don't have time to even implement my backlog. So, I would say use Prodly, use Prodly and DevOps Center together because we're gonna help you solve this problem, so you don't have to think about implementing this process. But I think at the end of the day, it really does come down to getting more resources for your team, providing visibility to your boss, using data to help you, get more resources or get more time or get your stakeholders involved in this process. Because there's a little bit more work required into the bookkeeping process, but if you think about training sales reps to use and fill out their opportunities, I mean, just because it's a little bit more work doesn't mean it's not worth it. You want to make sure you have that quality data input, and you want to train your team the right way so that ultimately you produce the best result for a business, and that will all come out in the data, that will all come out in the ROI. So
yeah, nice.
A little scary to get started.
Yeah, I also add on to that. I think, although this does seem like a lot of work, I kind of see this as a nice extension to people's careers, because the Salesforce ecosystem is moving in the direction of DevOps processes, tools, and mindset and things like that. So if you are applying for a job in, let's say, 5 years, this will probably be a requirement. It might not be a requirement now for an admin to have this knowledge, but it is moving in that direction. So although these terms might seem unfamiliar, I think it's a good job to learn them, for your career and future development as well.
I agree.
Great. So now this slide looks very nice. I'm sure everyone loves a dashboard. So you've talked a lot about increased communication and visibility. So how does this play into it?
Yeah, I mean, you can't change what you can't measure, and certainly hard to justify more resources or funding when you don't really have the data to back it up. And so this is a dashboard you can share with your boss onto things like how many requests for changes in Salesforce have been made so far this year, and how big is our backlog of changes is a good example. Another one might be is you're getting bombarded by different departments for different types of projects and requests, everything from sales ops to rev ops, or different integrations for different teams. And this is tracking the work management with your release process is going to give you that data into the entire pipeline of changes and velocity. So that ultimately, as you're updating the status, you're doing releases safely and quickly, you're able to figure out how quickly are you completing work and where are those bottlenecks. So this is very challenging for a lot of teams to sort of articulate, right? Because we all have this feeling, but once you have those dashboards, it becomes really easy to share.
And for people that might want to demonstrate, actual ROI from Salesforce, how would you do that with this data?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good question. And I think what we would do is for each one of these work items or projects, we would definitely associate some business impact or value metric to it, so that as the project's completed, you can go back and actually track the real impact outside of just number of changes being made. And this will certainly give you the records in Salesforce to do that.
Yeah, great.
So I mean, to kind of close off on this, I think the final ROI on this is just higher quality releases, right? Because you're able to track that work integration with those user stories and those work items, less tech debt, and then just provide more data on getting more projects up and running.
Nice. Cool. So we've got a few concepts here, kind of concepts before and then after. But how have you seen a shift in how businesses view, or business stakeholders view, admins and developers in an organization?
Yeah, I mean, before a lot of the customers we talk to, they feel like they're, I would say, a cost center or a ticket taker, but they're constantly the thing in between what the business needs and some sort of outcome that they're looking to achieve, or some change. And so it feels like they're just getting a lot of requests, and they're constantly in the way. But by creating this integration between DevOps Center and work management, and just kind of evolving a little bit into this world where we're combining these things, you now have that language of the work itself, and you have a tool like Salesforce that allows you to collaborate with those stakeholders and help them be part of that decision-making process around whether it's prioritizing the backlog, figuring out what do we build next, to we have an emergency during the release process and we're not sure we can get everything in, what do we do? Now they're a collaborative component. You're collaborating with them as to figuring out what to do in those situations. So you're becoming much more strategic. Releases are becoming much more predictable, and you're not siloed like you were before. So very, very exciting changes to see happen.
Agreed.
So, I'm sure if you've had any of these problems, you're just like, okay, what do I do next? This is really exciting stuff. I want to start using DevOps Center. I want to, get it, even if it's in open beta, I want to get set up and start learning these tools so that I'm ready to go. And I want to use my work management tool. Well, guess what? Prodly, we integrate with a free work management solution offered on the App Exchange called Agile Accelerator. So if you don't have a work management tool today, you want to use one for free, you can use Salesforce's. And what we do is we bring that work management with DevOps Center together. And we help you do everything from migrate that metadata to complex configuration data to automate that entire release process. You can check us out, on the App Exchange, or if you want to get a demo really quickly, you can go to prodly.co, get a demo, and we'd be happy to show you what we can do.
Great, thank you very much, David. Oh, sorry, let you take this one.
Oh, no worries. I mean, everybody came here today to learn more about how to get started with DevOps Center and just all the goodness that it has to offer. And so, Salesforce Ben, obviously a great website. We'll link to this article, but if you want to go to Salesforce DevOps HQ, we've created another website that just has everything DevOps Center associated to it. So everything from that quick started guide to more articles about what's happening at Dreamforce and how this is progressing. Just another great resource for you to have the documentation you need to be successful.
Great, thank you very much, David. So that has brought us to the end of our of the main presentation part in the chat. So we're going to move on to the Q&A now. We've got a bunch of questions, a lot of questions, so we'll try and get through as many as possible. There was a question about a demo of DevOps today. There won't be a demo of DevOps today. It's quite a mouthful, but I'm sure if you talk to the people at Prodly, they'd be happy to give you a demo of DevOps Center and also how Prodly interacts with DevOps Center. There's a question about once DevOps Center goes GA, will change sets be depreciated, or can we still use them? I don't think they'll be going away anytime soon, David.
No, I don't think so either. Probably never.
Yeah, a bit similar to Classic situation, I think. No, I don't think, yeah, Classic doesn't have a sunset date, so yeah. Can DevOps deploy data between orgs? I don't think.
So that's a great question. Yeah, it cannot. So DevOps Center does not deploy data between orgs, but that's what Prodly does very well. So that's why we're the really great complement to what Salesforce is doing. Prodly can move everything from simple sample data to a sandbox to get started on development to really complex relational data between sandboxes all the way up to production.
Great. And do you mind sharing your screen, David, and just going back to the DevOps HQ slide? Just had someone that wanted to check that out. You can leave it there if you want. Just
that sounds
perfect. There you go, Elizabeth. Thank you. That's all right. Sorry, so many questions coming. So if someone already has something like Capado or a gear set, is there a reason for them to also look at the Salesforce DevOps Center?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's because that if you want to incorporate more of your low and no code team, it's a great tool for deploying metadata. And same thing goes for Prodly, right? If you want to move, any sort of data around, or you want to, create scratch orgs on demand with the click of a button, or you want to seed sandboxes, they're really complementary tools.
Great. And the DevOps Center is free, right? No cost attached?
That's right. It's free to use and free to install and try. And everything I know says that this will be, at least in this edition, free for the foreseeable future.
Cool, great, thank you very much. Someone's put here how to make a career as a Salesforce, as a DevOps admin in Salesforce. I mean, do you want to take that one, David? No.
Yeah, I mean, how to make a career of it. I think that we talked a lot about work management, and a lot of the practices that traditionally are managed and sort of done by a development team are now being applied to sort of that Salesforce admin role. So you think about, the Agile process or being Scrum. How do you create and prioritize work? How do you determine, what to develop? That whole project management, product owner type role is definitely a skill that I see more product admins taking, because they're now a more powerful, interface with the business and helping them determine how to build things quickly and with really high quality using Salesforce tools. So I'd look into any sort of training around, product management, agile training, or a lot of these tools that we're providing around work management also have some courses on how to use them.
Cool, great, thanks, David. So does DevOps Center need to be installed in every environment, or does it just exist as one instance?
Yeah, that's a great question. It just needs to be installed in one instance.
Cool. So install in one instance, and then the other orgs can connect to that.
Exactly, yeah. So if you are working with partners or you're working in a ton of different environments, you don't have to go through that process of setting up DevOps Center and connecting everything together. As soon as you install DevOps Center, it'll ask you, which environments you want to connect, and then you'll authenticate into those environments, and then that's how you interact using the tool.
Cool, great. And there's a couple of questions about about velocity. And maybe I'll split it into two questions. So one, does Prodly work with velocity, and two, does DevOps Center work with velocity?
So that's yes. So Prodly does not yet work with velocity. In deploying velocities, it has a special, type of configuration data that is moved. So it's not something we do yet, but certainly on our roadmap and something we'd be happy to talk to you about. So please reach out to us. And then as for DevOps Center doesn't support that today or for the foreseeable future. So you'd need to talk with us about that or another partner.
And a slightly different question to the one I asked earlier, but if you enable DevOps Center, it doesn't disable change sets, right? You can still use both independently.
That's right. So if you start using DevOps Center and you need to use change sets for something else, you're absolutely welcome to. It does not stop that.
Cool, thank you. And I believe the answer to this is yes, but does it integrate with source controls like Git?
Yes, not only is it a yes, but it's required. So part of this new change process that we've been talking about is the benefits of doing source control driven development, which I know is probably a term a lot of people aren't familiar with, but Git and GitHub is a source repo. So it's where you're storing all your changes, and DevOps Center uses those types of repos or repositories to store all those changes as you're going through this process.
Cool, great. And a couple of questions here I think we can answer, but I think at the moment Salesforce DevOps Center only interfaces with GitHub. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And yeah.
But I think I've seen a slide somewhere of plans to roll out with a few other ones like Bitbucket and.
That's right. Yeah, that's on their Q1 roadmap for next year. So. Certainly, if you're one of those customers who is using a different repository for this, you can reach out to Salesforce and request. They're certainly looking for more data on that. But just also in the meantime, Prodly also provides a lot of these capabilities. So if you want to integrate with some of those repos for some of those configuration changes, Prodly does support non-GitHub repos.
Cool, and this might be a good follow-up question actually, but does the DevOps Center overlap with Prodly's capabilities?
It does not, and that is exactly why we're partnering with them, because they're really complementary. DevOps Center does an amazing job using the UI, that point and click promotion, and managing the pipelines and connections to environments. And Prodly, integrates the work management component, and it helps you promote that configuration data from one environment to another, and help you seed sandboxes. And the two tools together, we've seen increase that productivity for the team. So very complementary.
Cool, great, thank you. And someone's asked here about kind of types of orgs to be used, and this is actually what we covered off in the last webinar we did with Prodly, so I'm sure that'll be available on Prodly's website. But would you mind giving us an overview, David, of the types of orgs that you do use with a DevOps Center setup and a Prodly setup?
Yeah, so the orgs used with DevOps Center, you can connect it to any type of org, but it does require that you use the developer environments for where you're doing your development because of how it's tracking the changes. So you'll end up using those and connecting those, but as I mentioned, it can connect to any of the types of environments as you do the promotion process.
Cool, thank you. And have you got any thoughts on why the DevOps Center was delayed so long? I think it was probably just over a year, was it, that the beta was delayed for, maybe longer?
I don't have any hard proof, but I think I've been a Salesforce product manager for a number of years. I think Salesforce, their GA means a lot. What it means is that they have a lot of customers using it, and I think that they're holding off because they want to continue to get feedback and have that opportunity to make some changes if they need to. And so I guess the more feedback we can provide them, the more adoption we can provide them, even in this early phase, I think the faster they'll GA.
Cool, great. Few more coming in. I'm not sure if they mean DevOps Center or Prodly, but support back promotion of user stories.
So
rollback is that?
Yeah. So back promotion. So I guess the idea is that you've made a change at a higher level environment, meaning some QA or production environment that you want to take back to another development environment. And for the work management process inside DevOps Center, it does not support back promotion, meaning if you've made a change in production using change sets and you want to push that change back, it does not support that. So what it would require you to do is you go back and you just make that same change in your lower level environment. But Prodly does provide you the ability to do those backwarding changes because of how for data, that is. So if you have some price rule or some complex configuration data you want to be able to backport, Prodly does support that capability.
Cool, sounds good. So got a couple more questions here, but if anyone does have any more questions, then now is the time to submit them just before we run out of time. Are there any notable limitations associated with storage, number of user stories, or size limits with attachments? Maybe just limitations in general.
Yeah. It's a good question. I do not know off the top of my head, so I can certainly look into it and get back to you on that.
And does DevOps Center support packaging orgs for managed package vendors?
Does DevOps Center support packaging of orgs for managed packages?
But managed package vendors. So I don't know if that's a question from an ISV or.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to answer that. Does it support orgs for managed package vendors? So if I'm making changes in packages throughout this process, is DevOps supported? I don't know. I haven't tried that.
If you could clarify, Gordon, that'd be great, and we can try and get your question answered again. So why would I link a work item? Why would I link a work item to Jira? Doesn't the work item in the DevOps Center contain everything that someone needs?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and that is the work item in DevOps Center. If you do not have a work management integration like Prodly, then you have to manually create them. And so that's rekeying the information in that work item, and then there's no link to Jira. So that is exactly why you need a tool like Prodly to help, because it's just duplicating information in two places. So we provide that integration for you. But that's exactly the point, is you do want to link together the work item in DevOps Center with Jira.
Great. And there's one from Gabriella here about key considerations before starting to use Salesforce DevOps Center. And I mean, I think I would just kind of echo something that we've been talking about throughout this entire webinar, which is kind of skilling up on all the concepts you need to learn, because it's moving away from change sets, which are just kind of a point solution, to a DevOps process, which involves tools, but processes, and a mindset shift as well. So we've done 3 webinars with Prodly now. What was the first one? I can't remember the first one, but it was about DevOps Center. The second one was about how to use Scratch orgs and which environments to use with a DevOps Center. That was very important. And then we've obviously gone through this one with a bit more detail as well, but I'd recommend checking out all those. Obviously, Prodly's kind of sister website, Salesforce DevOps 101. Anything you'd add on, David?
No, I think that doing it, installing it, and using it is really the best way to learn. So just get started, and as I said, use our guide, and that's the best training you can have.
Cool, great. So those are all the questions we could get through today. So I think we're ready to wrap up. So thank you very much for everyone to join us today. This is a really cool session. I definitely learned a lot from David and Prodly. So yeah, thank you very much for explaining all about the DevOps today, David.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much, Salesforce Ben. It's always a pleasure, and we look forward to the next one.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.